was in Arizona yesterday to visit a site of new microchip manufacturing plant, and a lot of Republicans are very upset at how he answered reporters' question. Take a look.
Why go to a border state and not visit the border?
Because there's a more important thing going on. They're going to invest billions of dollars in a new enterprise.
I have to say that Joe Biden could have gone just to get them off his back. You know,
He had other stuff to do. He was trying to make, my God, what do you want a man to do?
All we heard about...
He was right there.
Yes, he could have gone, but, you know, he can't walk on all the water all the time.
When the reporter...
Wait, what?
How fucking retarded are you?
What the hell is the world coming to?
You are essentially telling us that you would consider getting into the 2024 race.
It's tender, it's juicy, it's delicious.
3 chicken tenders, taters, and gravy. I throw in a biscuit and a big old cookie.
My $5 Phillip will fill you up, guaranteed. Isn't that right, Phillip? It's still finger licking good.
Joining us once again is Michael Avenatti.
Michael Avenatti is with us now.
I want to bring in Michael Avenatti.
Donald Trump has officially, in writing, surrendered to Michael Avenatti.
Michael Avenatti.
Michael Avenatti.
Michael Avenatti.
You know a lot of things.
He's Donald Trump's worst nightmare.
Michael Avenatti.
Michael Avenatti. Michael Avenatti.
Are you going to run for president?
I heard maybe you are interested.
One reason why I'm taking you seriously as a contender is because of your presence on cable news.
At Twitter, decisions were made to censor reporting leading up to the election. My question was, is it the White House view that these decisions were made appropriately in light of what has come out?
So, look, we see this as an interesting or a coincidence, if I may, that he would so haphazardly, Twitter would so haphazardly push this distraction. That is a full of old news, if you think about it. And at the same time, Twitter.
I'm gender fluid. Woo! Yay! For me personally, I never use she. I just never feel feminine, and not once in my life have I felt feminine. And so we just don't know feminine. No, but I do fluctuate between like all of the other genders. And I was just like, woo. I do usually have bracelets, or I put it in my bio, or not bio, my description on the video I'm posting to specify what pronouns I'm feeling that day, and so you can look there.
Oh, fucking hell.
I do use, so the pronouns that I do use are he, they, ze, and fey. And so the last two I said are neopronouns, and a lot of people don't know how to pronounce them, and it's totally okay. And so I love when people ask, because then I can say. And it's respectful, and they're not being homophobic or transphobic, and it's a vibe. And so the last two, you pronounce the first one, fey fair, and so it's FAE/FAER, and you would use that one to be like, oh yeah, can Faye come too? Or, oh yeah, their favorite ice cream is vanilla. I don't know, stuff like that. And so that's how you'd kind of use it. And then the other one is Zem. It's spelled Xexem. And it's spelled with an X, but it's pronounced with like a Z sound. Because, you know, the English language. Woo! Woo! And so you would use that one like, oh yeah, can Z come bowling with us? Or their favorite ice cream is vanilla. I don't know. I'm not very creative in these examples. But that's kind of how you would use them.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid.
By the way, I don't like non-Jews referring to Jewish people as Jews. I do not like non-Jewish people referring to Jewish people as Jews.
Help, help, I'm being repressed.
You say Jewish people, Jewish person. I find it condescending. The Jew, the Jews, Jewish. You could get the extra syllable out, okay? It don't take that much energy to say Jewish.
I appreciate your input, but please, fuck off. You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right. Then do the homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume. I'm kind of retarded.
It's been kind of a rough week for me. I spent a good portion of it sick in bed, but the show must go on. Anyways, let's get to the big news. Brittany Griner, WNBA star, convicted drug smuggler, and totally not a dude, was released from Russian prison this week. By the way, is it just me, or is she a dead ringer for Felicia from Friday? The only thing that throws it off is she's got a voice almost as deep as the dude from the Green Mile. But back to the story. So she gets released for Victor Boot, the arms trafficker who the movie Lord of War was based on with Nicolas Cage. Pretty good fucking movie, actually. And of course, all week you've had a bunch of people howling about this from the Republican side, saying how, oh, we traded her for this awful, awful man, this merchant of death. It makes me wonder, did any of these people actually watch the fucking movie? Or do they know anything about the story the movie was based on? The movie is actually pretty accurate to real life. And the thing about this dude was, a lot of the gun smuggling, the arms trafficking, a lot of this shit was being done at the behest of the US government, specifically the CIA. That was why at the end of the movie he got let go. And that wasn't just a fictionalized ending and just added in Hollywood bullshit to make it a more exciting story. There's actually books about this. If you want to read a good one, check out Shadow Masters by Daniel Estulin. And you can learn all about how tight this guy was with the CIA and lots of other governments as well. Going back to the first Bush administration. That's just some shit that nobody seems to want to talk about. We'd all rather just put on a blindfold and plug our ears and pretend like all kinds of dirty shit hasn't been done in our names behind our backs by our government. But sure, let's just point our fucking fingers and go, that's the bad guy. Meanwhile, the Pentagon just failed another audit, going, oh, well, it seems there's about $2.2 trillion that we can't account for. We're just not sure what happened to the money.
Where's the fucking money, Gene?
And something very similar happened to that just the day before 9/11. The Pentagon announced that there was $3 trillion that they couldn't account for. Luckily for them, I suppose you could say, the very next day something happened that made everybody seemingly forget about that. That's not troubling at all. Meanwhile, on the Russian front, they just had one of their bases hundreds and hundreds of miles inside their own borders get attacked by Ukrainian missiles, damaging some of their nuclear-capable bombers. Which is also not a troubling development at all. I think Zelensky figured it out a while back that the only play he really has is to get NATO involved and turn this into World War III. It's really the only calculus where he can come out on top, if you can call that coming out on top, because his country will probably be reduced to rubble. Somebody somewhere must have promised him that he'd get evacuated out. Maybe he'll end up on whatever island they're keeping JFK Jr. and Tupac. And this past week, San Francisco reversed their recent decision to allow robots with lethal force to start patrolling the streets. Fortunately, it seems like the people in San Francisco aren't that fucked in the head that they'll allow that kind of bullshit. And after a lot of backlash and huge protests, the city government decided, okay, maybe it's not a good idea right now. But the people that lobbied for them to okay this in the first place, they're not going anywhere. And they're not going to stop. They're never going to stop. Some people, it seems, saw RoboCop and Terminator and thought, hey, that's a great idea. And I'm pleasantly surprised to see that San Francisco still has enough brain cells to rub together to put a stop to this. I've become pretty cynical about that fucking place in recent years. Please consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video, or leaving a comment. Because every time you do nothing, Vladimir Putin will shoot another puppy. And Project Veritas has done it again this week, releasing an undercover video of the dean of students in a $40,000 a year private high school talking about the fun he was having with his students.
They're just like passing around dildos, butt plugs. The kids are just playing with them. They're like, how does this butt plug work? How do we do, like, how does this work? That's a really, like, cool part of my job.
Parents might be stunned to learn that Bruno's version of love and acceptance means handing out sex toys to underage students.
So I've been the dean for 4 years. During Pride, we do a Pride Week every year. And I had like our LGBTQ plus health center come in. They were passing around butt plugs and dildos to my students, talking about queer sex, using lube versus using spit.
Who is this?
This is an LGBTQ plus health center came in to talk to my high school students. They're just like passing around dildos, butt plugs. The kids are just playing with them. They're looking at them.
In the school?
In a classroom.
Wow.
Yeah. While I'm sitting there. Then we had a drag queen come in, pass out cookies and brownies and do photos.
That's so amazing. And everybody's cool with that, like the butt plugs and the dildos. Nobody complains.
No.
I mean, if the parents found out, would they?
No. It's queer sex. This is the drag queen that came in.
What's her name?
Alexis Bevels.
Alexis Bevels.
And just hung out in my classroom.
And was there?
Or hung out in my office.
You have so much freedom. So much wiggle room.
So much freedom. So much money.
I mean,
to do stuff.
Trustees are okay with that too? They don't know.
They would. It's like I wouldn't even like run it by them. Like, why would I run it by them? They'd be like, oh my god, that's wonderful.
You know, it's amazing for the insane shit that he catches people saying on hidden camera. They try to come back and always say that, oh, this was deceptive editing.
One of our employees was targeted by the group and misled to believe he was conversing with another conference attendee over a coffee. He was filmed without his knowledge or permission while describing one example of our inclusive, affirming, and comprehensive approach to sex education. This group, Project Veritas, has now edited the video with malicious intent. That's interesting.
So please explain to me how you possibly edited what that guy said on camera deceptively. I would love to hear, but there's never any explanation as to how. They just claim that it's deceptive editing as a way of discrediting it. At least to the normies, who many of them are too busy to actually watch the video. They'll just read whatever's being said about the video and take their opinions from that. You should always be wary of people who claim deceptive editing without explaining exactly how it was deceptive editing. Take, for example, when George Zimmerman successfully sued NBC News for defamation for deceptively editing the 911 call. In the original 911 call, the operator asks him, oh, why do you think this kid looks suspicious? And he said, well, he's walking around with a hoodie pulled down and looks sketchy. And then the operator asks him, is he white, black, Hispanic? And he goes, he's black. But they edited that call to when the operator asked him, why does he look suspicious? His answer was, he's black. That's deceptive editing. And it doesn't take too long to explain it. But when people just try to claim that to discredit whatever it is and they can't offer the most basic of explanation, they're probably full of shit. And as for the newer Twitter files revelations, I keep waiting to see if anything legally actionable is going to drop, something that will actually force the hand of somebody, but I don't have very high hope. And I'm guessing the reason why it wasn't all just completely dumped like a WikiLeaks drop is that he's got people carefully going through this, and I would bet my left plastic nut that the national security state has already reached out to him and threatened the pants off of him. If they can find any way to claim national security interests on shit that he's releasing, then they will literally arrest his ass for releasing it. That's just a cold, hard fact of life. The gatekeepers haven't gone anywhere. They're just no longer running things at Twitter. But that doesn't exactly mean that Twitter can do anything it fucking wants now, does it? Not if it's gonna be a, quote, danger to national security. Gotta love that fucking Patriot Act, huh? And another still developing story. After I mentioned last week of the power grid attack in North Carolina that knocked out power to a whole fucking county, there was another attack this week on a power facility in South Carolina. They're claiming it was just a coincidence that he was shooting in the area of this power substation, but It's a hell of a coincidence, don't you think? Also, coincidentally, other power companies have come forward to tell the FBI, well, you know, we have had some attacks on our infrastructure in the past month. In fact, there was 5 attacks in Washington and Oregon just last month alone. And this isn't a completely new phenomenon. Back in 2013, there was an attack on a substation in California, although they managed to reroute things and keep a blackout from happening. In that attack, you had 17 transformers get destroyed, and it took them $15 million to repair that. I didn't realize transformers were quite that expensive. I mean, that comes out to $882,000 per transformer. Sounds a little bit sketchy to me, but I'm sure it's fine. But that happened to be the day after the Boston Marathon bombing, so it never really got much attention paid to it. And for some reason, nobody thought to harden their facilities after things like that. So now, almost 10 years later, most of our power grid isn't all that well protected. And even though federal investigators have been brought in to look at the North Carolina attack, their official response is, we still don't know why. But this kind of low-tech attack on critical infrastructure would be the perfect kind of thing for a sleeper cell receiving orders from an unfriendly country would perpetrate. And if that was the case here, and these were sort of probing attacks to test the waters, and we're about to see a large wave of these attacks nationwide, do you really think they would even give us a heads up? I know I have my doubts. Sláinte.
All I have in this world is my thoughts and my words, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. 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 Come on. Come on.
you now. Look at you now.